Okay, on my desktop I've got this folder, and inside this folder I've got this one image which I downloaded from Unsplash. I'll put a link to the same image in the YouTube description. Let's go ahead and open up Photoshop, and I'm going to drag and drop that picture into Photoshop. And the objective is to show you how to change or isolate a piece of content within an image and then change the color of that piece of content. So let's go ahead and click on the quick selection tool here, and we want to click on the plus sign to add. We want to add to the quick selection, so we select this option up here, and then we want to draw inside of this orange, right? So let's make a selection inside the orange by using the quick selection tool. So we have a selection here now, and we want to change its color. So let's go ahead and click on the adjustment tool here, and we'll click here and we'll do solid color. Let's click solid color, and you can see that it's gone all orange, right? So that's the color that's been selected right now. I'm just going to drag this handle in the top right hand corner, and I'm going to select a different color, maybe something a bit strange like blue, right? Something like this sort of blue shade, or you can change it to whatever color you like. I'm going to click OK. Now that obviously doesn't look very good, so we need to change our blend mode. So here it says normal at the moment. I'm going to click on the drop down and select color here. So it still doesn't look quite right. You know, I mean, we've changed the color of the fruit, but we can improve that again. So we can click on this top layer, we can go back to the adjustment layer, and we can select hue and saturation. And when we select hue and saturation, it's important that we click this option here. This is to add a clipping mask so that it only affects the layer directly below it. So if I click this, you'll see there's a little arrow here. Can you see that little arrow? If I unclick it, it will remove the arrow and add it. If I unclick it and change the hue and saturation, it's going to change all of the content, right? It's going to affect both layers directly below. But as soon as I click on the clipping mask here, all of a sudden, everything apart from our selection, or apart from this layer right directly below, is going to get manipulated. So we can just drag the handle here and we can change the color. So we had it blue before, right? We can adjust that blue a little bit. So right, maybe it was a bit too strong before, so we can just move it to the side a little bit. We can change the saturation. We'll make it darker, we can make it lighter, just to make it a bit more, you know, sensible in terms of what the color would look like if we want to manipulate it. So something like this sort of shade I think is pretty good, right? Maybe little bit brighter just to make it a bit different. And that's the sort of shade that I was aiming for. So we can click back on the background down here. We can go back to the selection tool, quick selection tool here, and it's still on the plus selection, so it's still adding to the selection, but this is going to be a new selection, right? A completely new one. And we're going to drag into this bottom fruit down here. So let's drag in and select that, and we can see that's been selected pretty well. And then we can go back and click on this background, click on this adjustment layer, and add another solid color. This time it's orange again. So we, you know, the reason why it's picking orange all the time is because the foreground color has been set here to orange. It's always going to pick that color as default, and we want to make this a different color. So I want to make it like a purple color, right? Something a bit different, purple. And that's the color there, and obviously it doesn't look right because we need to change the blend mode to color here. And then we can click on that and then add the hue and saturation again here. And again, remember, we want to add the clipping mask here. So now we can manipulate that color. We can slightly change it, make it brighter or darker. I think something around here looks pretty good. And then we can increase or decrease the saturation. You can make it grayscale if you want, or crank up the saturation and give it a bit more brightness. So you can continue to manipulate all of the different slices of fruit and give them all a different color if you like. That's entirely your choice. We're just having a little bit of fun here, but most important is making the selection and using these tools and these layers and the adjustment layers to change the color of the fruit. Now obviously a lot of this is non-destructive, so if we were to hide this hide these selections, we can see we can easily bring back the original fruit color, because in Photoshop a lot of these things that we do are non-destructive, so we can easily bring back the fruit to its original color. You can click on the background if you want to, and then add another solid color here, or you can just go straight to the hue and saturation, right? Hue and saturation, and then we can add a clipping mask to that, and now we can manipulate everything except for the selections that we made in here, because it's only going to do the background, and these layers sit on top, so they won't be manipulated when we change the hue and saturation. You can see everything else will change like this, right? Just like this here. So I'll leave you to go and experiment with that. I'm not really going to change this fruit color too much. I just want to maybe make it slightly darker, something like this, and just bump up the saturation a little bit there, and I think that will be fine. Okay, so that's how you go about selecting objects in Photoshop and changing their color. You can use these layers stacked like this, and you can manipulate the colors to whatever you like. If you want to change the default color, you can always double click on this blue swatch or the purple one. Let's double click on the blue one, and you'll see the color palette tool will come up again, and you can manipulate the colors from here as well just by dragging the slider to a specific color. I kind of like the blue. That looks a bit strange, and we don't normally see fruit that is a blue color. Okay, let's go ahead and save our work. Let's click File, Save As, and we should always save our work. That's the wisest thing to do. And we just call this change color -01, and then we can press Control Shift Alt and W. I know that's a long shortcut. Control Shift Alt and W allows us to do an export in JPEG file. So we just export this, and we can just save that as a JPEG file. Let's save this work, close it, and we can see the end result here. Here's our manipulated file, and then here is the original file. You can just have them sitting side by side. You can see we made the fruit a little bit darker. The reason why I did that is because I wanted these colors to like pop out a little bit more. You could even go in and do selections just like here. You can see these little bits here. You could do a separate selection and change that to a blue color, and you could go and refine this selection. But overall, it's not too bad, right? It's a nice little project for you to work on and go and experiment. Try and do this with different types of images. It doesn't have to be fruit. It could be anything that you know. It could be clothes, for example. It could be anything. It could be someone's hair color. Lots of different ways that you can use this same technique to change the color of content within Photoshop. Let's close this down. That's the end of this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, where you can access over 750 different types of tutorials. So it's not just on Photoshop. There's a wide range of tutorials on a diverse range of website applications and software applications. Okay, that's the end of this tutorial. I hope you find it useful. I look forward to seeing you in the next DCP web tutorial.